The Fiery Furnace is absolutely the biggest project I've ever tackled. It clocked in today at, I think, 36 minutes, and it's a 100-page score, 68-page libretto, well over 200 musicians on stage, 2 soloists, chorus, orchestra, full orchestra. And it was a huge project. It took me probably definitely it took me the longest that it's ever taken me to write a piece of music. I keep telling people I think it took about 9 months, but I've been thinking about it for several years. And I don't know exactly when I started it, and I deliberately don't keep track of the amount of time it takes to write a piece because I don't want to think of the creative process in terms of that. But anyway, I've been working on it for months, and it's a huge project. I think the biggest challenges right from the beginning was that I'd never written a dramatic piece. I'd never written a piece that told a story through words and music. I've written pieces that tell a story through music in a more abstract way, but never this concrete thing. I've written for singers and I've written for chorus, but I've, again, never written for them all together. And so the things that I was worried about the most was probably dramatic pacing. How do you tell a story through music? The librettos that are the most successful definitely are not necessarily the greatest poetry. If you sit down and read them, they're very, very simple. Not necessarily elegant, sometimes clumsy if you're just reading it. And so there's just a lot of sort of unknowns and things that I didn't know how I was going to do it. And in the case of The Fiery Furnace, I decided to write my own libretto. That's actually not even true. Basically, I assembled my own libretto from the English Standard Version translation of the Bible. But I pulled things from many different psalms, from different parts of Daniel, and I was able at each moment to sort of extend or shorten the text as I felt needed by the music. So working out the drama was something that I worked very, very hard at. And probably the process that I went through was working out sort of in the beginning, sort of vague strokes of the libretto and the story, figuring out what were the scenes. And one of the initial decisions was to interject certain prayers that are not in the chapter of Daniel that tells the story, but I imagined, of course, these people would be praying before they're thrown into the furnace. So then I had to assemble those prayers. What were the sentiments of those prayers going to be? How could I communicate this? So I assembled sort of from some broad strokes of the libretto, and then I sat down to write from beginning to end, starting with the opening prayer, not the opening statement by Nebuchadnezzar, but the opening prayer. And I just would sit at the piano and noodle and sing. And every vocal line I sang, dozens of times. And I'm not a good singer, but I have the privacy of my basement. I would just sing through it and try to feel the emotional impact of each statement. What is the melody that's going to hit this? What are the words that are going to carry the weight? And again, it was very nice to do the libretto while trying to write these melodies because I felt like the marriage between the two was very strong. So the vocal score sort of came gradually, and that came before the orchestral score. I had some very concrete ideas about the orchestration, but getting the pacing and drama of the music in a simple vocal score was the most important thing. As well, the vocal score was due before anything else. So that was sort of the process. And then later on, the other challenges of this became the balance with the voice and the orchestra and transitions, working out the transitions between the various scenes. The balance with the voice and orchestra is something that we